Yeah. Okay. So I think I was thinking about this and I just want to quickly go through this so that we can talk about it and talk about cases more than anything else. So I was thinking, what should I call this? So I thought that the title of this place has to be the in-between stuff, a journey for idea to the markets and what happens in between. So that's what I want to talk about today, the in-between stuff. And that's what you are basically, all of you are doing out here is making prototypes or models or something. So that becomes really easy to, focus on. And that journey is something I always maintain that you should be enjoying the journey. Destination is something which you may try to reach, or you plan for something and you land up somewhere else. They say that they say in an old Hindi song, no, जाते थे जापान समझ ले चीन पहुंच गए ना. I think that is something which is always serendipitous in a journey like this, but it's very enjoyable. And I'll share some of the experiences I've had, so you can do that. But before that, let's move on to the next one. What we'll talk about is the concept of ideas. Is it a tech push or a market pull? I will talk a little bit about that. What is the groundwork required to be done there in the context of what we know about technology today, etc. So that is very important. Making something that works. This is really important. And the last question we'll address is getting ready for the market. That's a very difficult question. I'll do a very little justice to it out here, but it gives you somewhat of a flavor as to what you do. And then on, we can talk about some cases which are successes and failures so that you get a flavor as to what really goes on when you're prototyping and trying to go to the market out here. So if I was to say, what is a tech push? It's not an interactive class where I was present in physically, then we would have had a very nice conversation on it. But what I mean by tech push is there is a technology with no clear application or market, but it sounds pretty cool. All right. So that's something is really cool. And, if you look at something like a PC at a very early stage where everybody foo-fooed the ideas, especially companies like IBM and, digital equipment or DEC. And, what has happened on that today? I mean, does anybody work with an IBM PC anymore or a DEC, computer? So all of them are history. Why has that happened is basically they didn't see what was coming, and some people saw that what was coming, and they were tinkering around it for about 15 years or so. And then what we see today are basically the DEC computer, which occupied a few rooms, today is in our palms. So that is the kind of changes people are seeing, and these are visionaries who are doing this. Then, if you look at something which we take it for granted right now is a refrigerator. Earlier, before the 1930s, before the advent of a Carnot cycle in a practical form like a refrigerator, what we had was something called the Iceman. They used to get ice and put it in an ice box for every home. And they used to give that until the refrigerators came, and suddenly we have a ice box running on electricity. Very new at that point in time, expensive, took some time to establish itself. But then once it established, it created such a tech push and a way of life it changed that you had a lot of implications in that. The same thing happened with cars also. Nobody said that, oh, it's such a dangerous thing. Even cars running at 15 miles per hour. And today you have cars running at 300 kilometers per hour. So what was tech push then has become pretty common now. And the second concept is market pull. What is the market demanding as a product or a service? So if I look at a couple of things which came to my mind is a 100cc bike, where India, where is a cost-conscious country, everybody wants a small bike, and that 100cc bike made a huge requirement, and that's why a lot of the companies grew out of that, like Hero and Hero Honda and things like that. And of course, currently, if you look at education platforms like Byju's and Unacademy, serving a tremendous need which was there in these areas. So those are the tech push, market pull companies, what we look at. So that is the difference I look at it. So some other examples which I think you can share with me is what do you call auto rickshaw? Is it a market pull or a tech push company? Robots, market pull or tech push? IoT, market pull or tech push? Soy milk. plant-based proteins, Crocs sandals. So any ideas on that? We can have a quick round of hands. What are these? Tech pull or market push, Anybody? Yeah, anybody you can write on chat board, on chat boards or something like that. Some feedback. Raj, we have that feedback or?
Yes, definitely. We were having a very nice conversation. Anu says it's market pull.
Which is market pull, Anu? All of them, or you can speak up. Can they unmute themselves and speak up? Or?
Yeah. I've given them that access.
Sir, IoT specifically?
Yeah, say IoT, what is it? Market pull or tech push?
We can actually make it as a market pull as well as tech pull also.
No, you can't have two answers. You have to give me one answer. What do you think?
Market pull, sir.
Market pull. Is it, how many IoT devices do you have in your home?
Sir, phone, this laptop, headphones.
No. Phone, is it an IoT device? Internet of Things?
So anything that is connected to internet is an IoT, right?
No. IoT is something different. Okay. Okay, there are special machines talking to each other through internet. Okay. So IoT is, as I see it, is a tech push right now. Who's willing to pay for it is a big question mark, and we'll discuss it when I talk about a case. Anybody else? Come on,
Maybe IBM comes under tech push.
Sorry?
IBM, sir. IBM comes under tech push, sir.
IBM. What is IBM? IBM is a company, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so no.
The products which belongs to
IBM. Be specific. The examples I have given. Auto rickshaw, is it a market pull or a tech push?
It's a market push.
Exactly. Because we needed a simple, easy, cost-effective solution for transportation, right?
Yes, sir.
Correct? Anybody else?
Yes, sir.
So where the robotics and IoT will be a tech tool, so.
Okay. What about soy milk?
Soy milk will also be tech push.
Tech push. Excellent idea. Excellent point. I'll tell you because soy milk, have you heard of this brand called Silk? It is an American brand of soya milk. So they struggled for almost 17 years. Okay. Before it really took off and became very common. And then plant milks became very common, like almond milk, oat milk, soya milk, rice milk, all of them as an alternate to dairy. Okay, so there is a huge thing which happened because of that. Okay. And now I think if I look at the characteristics of tech push, typically longer times for adaptability. Lots of failures happen out there. You are really redefine the product and appears for an application or a market in other forms too. For example, if you look at Crocs, these were space age materials used in space shuttle, which have found use as a footwear material because they are very long lasting and robust. So are you all with me on this matter?
Yes, sir, I agree.
Yeah. So this is where it kind of stood out in this matter. So this is a so in a market pull scenario, we have something which scales extremely fast. It is facilitated by regulations, timing, cost, ease of use, etc. And typically is a very consumer-centric one. So, for example, if I look at a simple thing like a sari, okay, when Reliance introduced polyester, suddenly everybody moved from cotton to polyester saris, and the penetration of saris and the colorful saris just increased dramatically because there was a huge market demand for it. So there became a real pull for that, So that, and just now I was listening on the way back from my sites, I was listening to the story of Nalli, which is a sari brand, and it's a 700 crore sari brand with a profitability of about 20% EBITDA, 20% EBITDA. So it's a huge thing, and how they are doing that. So it's very interesting to see all these kind of products, simple products, etc. And any other ideas on a very common market pull product which you have been using? Cell phone services in India, it is cheaper than the cost of writing a postcard. So everybody has forgotten postcards right now. And that is the vision of Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani, which led to this amazing part of the revolution. So once we start this journey, we have to start validating our ideas. Just a second, I think I got the wrong one. Yeah. So once we come and understand this, we have to look at the groundwork. So it's about an idea. So, there is nothing right or wrong in this. As long as you have an idea and you want to work on it, there would be something you can do about it. For example, I was at IIT Bombay a year or year and a half ago, where somebody said that I want to make a computer with water. I said, good enough. So you can do that. There's no problem in terms of creating binary numbers out of that. But my question to him was, is it going to be as fast as, say, a normal computer? So that got him thinking also, or a quantum computer. So these kind of ideas have to be analyzed and understood in terms of what can happen. Idea is good, but it only becomes plausible if you can think a little bit more about it. So what I look at it is some frameworks, and these are no mantras or anything, but there is some framework which helps me think about ideas. So one of the things is, what is the anticipated outcome am I looking at, And it doesn't have to be typically a market outcome, it can be a technical outcome also. So today, in fact, I don't know if somebody read a Hindu paper where there was a beautiful article on creating a Carnot-like cycle using quantum states. It's a tremendously interesting concept. But what can you do out of it? We don't know as yet. But there's an idea one can build upon that. The second point which I come across is, what is the scientific principle you are addressing? I mean, there has to be a scientific basis for any kind of products, what you're making, or any rationalization you're doing. So scientific and technological principles have to be addressed in this case. And the third part, which is important, is how do you logically build up these scientific ideas and technologies with a chain of thought to arrive at a prototype concept. And I'll talk about this in some cases. And this concept, you have made it, so you have to think about the nitty-gritties now as to how will it be translated to a prototype. And once we do that, you need to think as to what would be the expected performance of this invention or innovation you have, in quantitative terms. So that is something which you really need to think about. And once you start thinking about it and go through this framework over and over again, you will start understanding that, well, how I can think about a prototype, how I can think about a product, how I can think about a technology. So the groundwork for prototyping is looking inwards. You have to follow a process. You have to craft a journey to arrive at a destination. But most important is enjoying the journey, because you don't know what kind of surprises you are going to get. The second thing I always maintain is that now there are so many things which have happened, and so many phenomena are well understood, that everything is amenable to math and simulations. This is one of the most amazing tools available with us today to cut down on time and expenses and expand the domain of the outcomes which are possible out of these things. And that is something really important. And today I also do a lot of simulations using even simple thing like an Excel spreadsheet. So I become pretty proficient at that, including difficult things also on all that. And this will help you evolve a nice blueprint of what you want to really build and reduce experimentation. So the speed and efficiency of proving it right will improve dramatically. The next part which comes out is making something that works. And out here, my first mantra is plan, plan, and plan. And if you look at Japanese, when they want to execute something, 90% of the time is spent on planning and 10% on execution, so that the execution is so-called flawless. And what it involves is you have to position yourself for the unanticipated. Ask the question, what if? This kind of a question. For example, if I'm working with a system which has got some special pump, what if the pumps are not available? Or what if the pump duty increases dramatically? Will it really make or break your product? Things like that. And then you don't just focus on the idea, but the depth and the breadth of it. What all can you do with it? What is the depth? How can you optimize with respect to the depth and breadth of it? And then look at the expectations. What are the actuals you got? What are the anticipated? And some of the things which you learn on the way in the journey is, were you surprised or blown away with your findings? Or were you really dejected with your findings? What batted really well and where we didn't play well? So those are the things which are self-reflection, which you have to really look at it and how you can sue it. And this is a very tremendous art whereby you can entertain your thought or ideas about yourself or your product and not necessarily accept it or say that, okay, objectively, this is right or wrong. And that is a skill you have to keep on developing and applying to whatever you do. It will make you very objective. So the questions you can look at it is what you can do now, where can you play well, and where can you exceed the potential. Now, these are important questions to answer, which will lead towards the market or developing a market or a product which can be commercialized. And then the last stage, which we'll talk briefly about, is something called getting ready for the market. And one of the most important things I'd ask everybody is, what is the status quo? And today I get a lot of startups coming to me saying that this is new, that is new. And what I find is about 97% of them, the problems they are trying to solve have been solved in the last 90 years. And, you come from IITs, they've got a very interesting building called a library. Dr. Google doesn't have every solution or everything on it is not current. A library has got some great things, and a lot of the journals, if you read and go back and trace the history back 90 years, you'll find some amazing solutions. The next question I always ask is, how does my solution compare to the current best solution in terms of performance, price, ease of use, and how it interacts with people? And where is your innovation or invention applicable? Something you may try, but you may reach somewhere else. But that's the whole beauty of this journey, and how society will benefit from your invention. So that is becoming philosophically a very important thing, whereby, at the end of it, when you put something in the market allows you to sell something because that's the society allowing you to do that and wanting that. So I think how the society benefits also becomes a very important question to address. Okay. For example, if you look at Airbnb, it's very interesting that it suddenly opened up a housing market or a temporary housing market to a wider audience, and anybody could access a lot of different kinds of staying experiences. And then benchmarking. This becomes very important, and you have to be very critical. How does it benchmark energy consumption, material utilization, efficiency, sustainability, etc.? And the benchmarking matrices could be very different. And then you can ask yourself a question: what does the innovation or invention do? Is it addressing a new market? It is improving the existing offering. It changes the use patterns. Is it redefining the market? And the last question I like to answer is, how large is the market? Is it a growing market, or is it a shrinking market, or a steady market? So if you answer these, you will come to a pretty good idea as to what is a workable product in this case. So I'm going to talk about a couple of cases out here. All right. And I'm going to make you throw the floor open. So I'll talk a little bit about my story. So before I started my water business about 9 years ago, I had a couple of failures, and which was amazing. The most amazing learnings it taught me was how to think about markets and what really markets really they what do they cherish. And in all the three cases, there were a couple of factors which caused a lot of problems for me. The first important factor which had a problem was I was a tremendously tech push person who could not understand when the tech would be used. And I was literally 5 to 10 years ahead of my times in everything. And my first venture was making something called natural vitamin E using a very interesting technology called uh, countercurrent chromatography. The second one was looking at a very high-end laboratory, and there also my business model failed me. The third one I started with water, and that started because I was building a home, and the last push was to be given to my contractor to complete the home. So I was staying at a friend's house. He said that I got a lovely pressurized water supply system. Uh, Only problem is when you go to the bathroom, just press this button and wait for 3 minutes before you can use the water because I have to switch on the generator and that will power the pump. And that, like a very arrogant person, I thought, what? This is a third year problem. And I looked at that. I couldn't sleep that night. I said, third year engineering problem, and why is it such a large thing out here? And that question led me to a lot of things. And it taught me a lot of things about simple things like pumps. So that's how I started my journey. Then I said, I'm going to build system myself for my own house. And it took me 5.5 months to build the system. And why did that happen? Because I wanted a mason, an electrician, and a plumber together, and which never happened. And this is like 15 kilometers away from Mumbai as the crow flies. So imagine the state of affairs, what is happening. And after that happened, one of my friends saw that. He says, make one for me. So I made that then with my own hands in like 1 week's time. And then I said, let me take a risk. And I made about 8, 10 systems like that. And within 2 weeks, every one of them was sold out. So I said, hey, this looks really interesting. And then my lab knowledge came handy. I said, let's analyze water. And suddenly I found that by analyzing water, the water numbers were talking to me and I could really conceptualize water treatment technologies based on that. And this is the power of numbers and math. And once we did that, I developed within a very short span of time with a lot of reading, learning from others, and using a lot of simulation and modeling. I have today about 10 to 12 technology platforms developed. The reason I got late is that we are developing some water storage solutions. And I'm a chemical engineer by training, but trying to solve a hydrology and a civil engineering problem, which I'm never afraid of tackling the problem as long as we know the fundamentals well. And then I said, okay, I could qualitatively and semi-quantitatively solve it. And now I need some nuance. So then I got the specialist in that field to do that. So, that is my story out here. And today I have got about 12 technology platforms. We can work at scales of 2000 liters per hour to 100,000 liters per hour. And we are productized. We understand answers of anything with water across the life cycle of water. So that is my story. Second one I want to talk about is mRNA. Does anybody know what is mRNA?
Uh,
Yeah.
Sir, it's involved in protein coding.
Yeah. Where is it used currently?
Sir, it's used in vaccines.
Yeah. Which one?
Covishield, Pfizer, most of them, they're involved in mRNA vaccine technology.
Yeah. And what is so special about mRNA this month?
Okay, I think the Nobel Prize of Physiology and Medicine went to the people who basically helped develop the RNA technology. They were
Yeah.
in nucleotide bases.
Yeah. So do you know the history of it?
Sir, both of them, they worked in 2005 or so. And initially, I'm not really sure, but there was some problem with the bases. RNA transfer, there was difficult. So they
Yeah.
helped all that, and because of that, we were able to develop it quickly in 2020 and so.
Yeah. So what happened out here? It's a very good point what you're bringing out. It started with the DNA discovery in 1958 by Kirk and Watson, and based on that, a lot of technologies came up. mRNA came about where the coding of the protein could not happen very easily, and they needed to solve the problem. And everybody gave up on that, including the lady who was from Hungary. She was working at University of Pennsylvania, and they basically threw her out, saying that you are doing useless research. And then they made her an adjunct faculty. She stood by it and believed in her idea. So that is another very important trait for any entrepreneur. Perseverance and grit, very, very important. And you just have to keep on following on that. And she did that. When mRNA came, there is suddenly a new way of looking at technology. You can develop a vaccine in less than 3 years. And then you are able to do a lot of work a priori, even before you are getting into the lab using computational biology. And today, mRNA is looking at a lot of other viruses, vaccines, and such things. But what we have got now is a technique to address evolving viruses in a very quick and fast manner. So, you know how otherwise, normally the vaccines used to take 15 years to make them and test them, etc. But this is happening and has shrunk down the time. So imagine what are the kind of implication it has got. And as a result of it, yes, it has got some rough edges also, which need to be smoothened out, but those will get smoothened out very fast. But how it has started as a tech push, but suddenly became a market pull because the conditions of the market changed. Yeah. Of course, the next one is something called an Airbnb. Does anybody know about Airbnb? So it was an enormous tech platform. Sorry, I'm a bit hungry. So it started and it went viral. Market pull. People wanted to stay in homely places, new places, not the stayed hotels. And people could make money out of it by renting out the rooms or houses or whatever. And somebody saw that it is getting tech enabled, and they did that. And key out here was being very customer centric. What do the customers like? How do you present your rooms? How do you present? What kind of service? And a lot of things came out of it. And today Airbnb has become very common. And they develop very importantly is a trust. So through photographs, through kind of not secrecy but privacy, they could develop a lot of trust between customers and sellers, and those things really helped it scale and go viral. So that's how they scaled up very nicely. So these were the three cases I have, and what I'd like to know is there are three things which are very important right now. One is CO2 capture, green hydrogen, and electric cars. So to start off the discussion, that's the end of my talk here. What do you think about these three technologies? Are they market pull or tech push? So I'm going to throw the floor open. I'm going to stop my presentation, and I'd love to hear one by one what do you guys feel about it, and then we can address the questions you have for your prototyping. So can anybody tell me between the three of them, what do you feel about it? Carbon capture, CO2 capture, green hydrogen, and electric cars.
Sir, electric cars will be a technical push.
Why?
So why? Because whereas we think the electrical cars will have a different evolutions. When
Okay.
in the first stage of an EV, they may have some failures of batteries and charging, etc. And after that, they had a speed charging technologies, etc. In such a way, they had a small evolution, and then they are going to complete a product like that.
What is the competing technology for EVs?
Hydrogen.
Hydrogen. What else? So do you think that all the old engine, ICE engines, internal combustion engines, are they going to sit quiet about this?
Absolutely not, sir, because the first vehicle made was of the EV. Those are electric vehicles.
Right.
Then they got shut down and the diesel engine and petrol engine came into place.
Okay.
So as of now, again, the same history repeated itself where Elon Musk started Tesla. And because it gained much of the market, he was able to gain much sell in the market.
Mhm.
That became, from the technology push, it became an market pull
Okay.
because of the marketing strategy and how it has been portrayed. But again, if you see the so EVs are pushed on the point that those are eco-friendly. But
Mhm.
again, the making of lithium-ion batteries from the ores, and then again the managing of the spent lithium-ion batteries, the generation of electricity, those are still not the eco-friendly way. So it's basically the market, more than market push, it's an technology push.
Okay. Very good.
So
What about? Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
So the main agenda is to make it such a big market where, because of the high volume of production,
Right.
the points which are now not eco-friendly, they can be made eco-friendly, like maybe windmills or solar energy. And then we can tell that, okay, then now it's on the advantageous side and it's a market pull.
Yeah. What about hybrids?
Yeah, hybrid cars are an add-on, but yes, they can be said as a kind of market pull.
So if I was in your place to make a policy or a decision for India, if you are given that task, what do you do? What would you do? What is the something you, if you were to give a policy and give incentives, which technology would you support?
Maybe I would allocate 60% to the existing technology of IC engines
Yeah.
because they are already in the market. They are well researched, and
Mhm.
maybe we can make them more eco-friendly.
Right.
And 40% to the EVs because they are the upcoming technology. So maybe we can make them more eco-friendly by mostly towards the battery technology.
What
Other
about
than
hydrogen?
hydrogen is also a good option, but again the storage is an issue. Storage and managing the hydrogen. So yeah,
Oh.
maybe I can allot a good chunk to that as well.
So I'll tell you what is really happening out here. The Japanese companies are betting on a lot on hydrogen fuel cells and hybrid engines. Americans are betting on EVs. Germans are also betting on EVs and fuel cells, but EVs in the short term, and that is what people are looking at. Sabiq in Saudi Arabia has been sponsoring a lot of work on improving the IC engine. You know, so you see there are people are trying to take bets on this particular part. And they have got, sorry, somebody or someone to say something. Yeah, so that people are taking some bets on that. Okay. All right. What about CO capture? Or carbon sequestering? Anybody? Any ideas?
We can say it is a market pull.
Market pull? Who's going to pay for it?
The carbon credits may come into picture.
But are they really getting popular?
No.
So really have to understand the market structures, right, as to what is going on. So one of the biggest learnings I've had is in the chemical space. Never try and yeah, Harshal, you have a hand up. Tell me.
Sorry, sir, please continue. After this, I'll ask my question. Sorry.
Yeah. So today in chemical industry, what we are seeing is people say I've got biodegradable product or coming from renewable source. Chemical industry in the world today is the most optimized industry with respect to material efficiency and cost. Displacing an incumbent is not an easy task. And that is where a lot of effort needs to go in also. So when you address a market, you have to address markets which are new markets in that space. Otherwise, you require a lot of time, effort, and money to displace the already existing player. So that one needs to keep in mind. Okay. Carbon dioxide sequestering is or carbon emission reduction is a huge challenge. And it's not going to happen that easily because most of the emissions come from transportation fuels. And how do we address that is going to be a very important question. And the last part, which I said EV, we had touched upon, we talked about carbon sequestration and green hydrogen. What do you think of that? Have people been reading about green hydrogen?
I think it's more of a push, sir.
More of a push. Good idea.
Yes.
Yeah. And why do you say it's more of a push?
Because working with hydrogen is a bit complicated than any other kind of fuel. Again, transportation is a big issue. Handling that in some engines is a big issue, and deploying that on a field specifically comes with a huge constraint of environmental factors. Certainly, and Indian roads on the same scene are a different challenge in itself.
Right. So there is a lot of
And
yeah. Sorry. Go
one
ahead.
more point I'd like to add is that with regard to that, there are no regulation that timestamps your progress onto is this engines or these kind of fuel are suitable for particular machines.
Right. So I think you highlighted a lot of the issues with it, and you're thinking through with that, right? I think with this, I'll stop talking now, and I want to hear about from you guys as to what kind of issues you have and what problems you have in this case.
So one question I want to ask, if you allow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you gave a very good description of the push and pull technology. Thank you for that. That was a very good thing. One thing I want to ask there is, isn't the push and pull for a particular market is more of a virtue of the develop that market is developing into? I had this example in my mind. I need your guidance onto it. Let's say two-wheeler market in South Africa or in African countries. So
Right.
we had Indian players there also, and the Chinese and the Japanese players also at the same time.
Right.
But there the Indian players exceeded, like the TVS, Bajaj, they exceeded in the two-wheeler game, and I guess we all know the history. So in these kind of scenario, how would we define the push and the pull when we have competing markets? But yeah,
Yeah. So that comes into a question of something called the market fit. Okay.
so
All right. If I let us give you an example that if Americans were trying to sell their Cadillacs out here, they would not work because our
yes.
conditions of use are very different.
Hmm.
Why did our Bajaj of the world succeed out there? Because of the price points. Probably I don't know much about that market and the fit. So what is required to address the Indian markets is very
Hmm.
close to what is required to address in the African markets. Maybe
Agreed.
it's the road conditions, the way in which you
Hmm.
use it, etc.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. And that is the reason it kind of comes up in that matter.
Hmm.
So, in one of the towns in Punjab, I forgot, they
Hmm.
suddenly found one of the white good companies found that there suddenly the the sale of their washing machines was increasing.
Hmm.
And they figured out why is this happening in this area?
Hmm.
And they realized that they were using washing machines to make lassi. Okay. So you see how people find their way around that
Hmm.
kind of thing. So that is one as to how they use it and how is that market perception? How do they see that? So markets,
Hmm.
even if you look at consumer products, something like say a Kit Kat chocolate. Okay.
So hmm.
In Japan, they have a flavor called matcha flavor.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Do
sir.
you think it will ever work in India?
No, sir. It's very bitter for Indian tongue, I would say.
Yeah. So Indian like that sweet tongue, na?
Agreed.
Agreed. So it is the market fit is very important. And if you
Hmm.
don't get that market fit, now it
Hmm.
becomes a problem. Now you see, Maggie noodles is basically always optimizing for the taste,
Agreed, sir.
right? So Maggie noodle has been able to do that much better than anything else. So they have a huge market share of it.
Hmm.
So
Agreed, sir. Agreed, sir.
they are listening to the market objective.
Hmm.
That is a
Hmm.
which kind of comes up in that. If you are interested, there is a very good book called Crossing the Chasm.
crossing the chasm. I'll just note it down.
Yeah.
Author, sir?
Yeah. Author, I forget, you can do that. It's about how the startups and how markets work and how is the initial gestation period and how it takes off and who are the early adapters and all that, you know. It's a very good book.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
It's by Geoffrey Moore, just in
Yeah.
case.
Yeah, probably. I don't remember who it
Hmm.
would be. Anything
Okay.
else?
No, sir.
Any-
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other specific problems related to your particular uh, uh, issue you're trying to tackle? I'm very happy to help you out with that also. I have some time.
Hi, sir. I'm Aditya Gupta. I'm a second year biotech student in IIT
Hi,
Hyderabad.
Aditya. How are you doing today?
Good, sir.
Huh? How's
I'm
the
good.
Josh?
Hi, sir. Hi.
Hi, good. Awesome. Tell me.
Yes, so as I was saying, I'm a second year biotech student here at IIT Hyderabad. And
Okay.
we're working on a project which is a bioremediation process. So
Okay.
we're taking in volatile organic compounds and
Uh-huh.
we pass through a filter which will have a film, something called a biofilm.
Okay.
Will be microorganisms on top of it, which will
Yeah.
break down the volatile organic compounds, convert it into simpler products, and give out clean air.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so we've done a lot of literature review, and we're also working in lab. But the problem is we're not able to figure out a timeline. The research is taking a lot of time growing the
Right.
microorganisms. Even if we grow one microorganism and we try and figure out the results, we try and do data analysis, growing it, inoculating it, all those processes, that is taking a lot of time.
Right.
So it's more at this point, it's become more of a research project, a long 3 year, 2 year research project.
Right.
So how do you think we should try and fit this in Vishwakarma, try and model it so that we're able to present something to you by January?
Okay. Excellent question. All right. So you selected a very difficult problem, right?
Yes, sir. It's
Yeah.
like complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you did not know about it, correct?
I mean, we did initially think that we'll have a small prototype, a bioreactor, or something which we can present, but it's
Uh,
taking too much time. So we
it's
have to figure out something.
Yeah. So that's where I say plan, plan, and plan. So when I do a planning, I always figure out the time scales which are involved in that. And biological processes take a little longer time scale. So when you want to take a time scale like that, what I look at it is a theory of constraints which can help us as to what is limiting and what is making the things slow. Okay. So if you analyze and put your steps down, which is the slowest step, and that is a controlling step, and that is something you need to address. Let us say, for example, you are doing some literature search, and there is, just for the sake of argument, I don't know whether this would work or not, but let us say coliform bacteria are doing very well for removing volatile organics, correct? So,
Yes.
right, no, for the time period, what I said, okay, I've seen it from literature. Let me validate very quickly with one or two experiments that they are doing some work out here. And I said, I'm going to focus on that. So there's a decision you are taking, a calculated decision, saying that, okay, it's reported by 15 papers, they do that. I'm not going to go something unique, but I'm going to prove this prototype. So you do that. Second thing is you understand their growth factors, where it is growing, what kind of food it requires. And then can you grow that on a basically a filter paper or whatever it is, and build a small prototype which is easy to manage, and then demonstrate what you are doing out here. That's how I would look at it. And then as a backup, what I do is that I don't work with one single plate or one single filter. I would probably put, say, a dozen filters together so that they are growing reproducibility. So they work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also,
That-
a different question, but
yeah.
what do you think of the product feasibility? Would you, in future, let's say 10 years down the line after R&D is done, would you like to buy something like a biofilter, which you would keep in your house, which has live microorganisms and which is cleaning out air for you? So the general, the conventional air filters that we have, they're HEPA-based air filters. So they take in
Right.
air and they absorb it. So they store it and you have to change the filters. So these
Right.
filters, they're breaking down air instead, they're not storing it.
Yeah.
So they'll have a shelf life of 6 to 7 years.
I think it's a great idea. If you can do that, it is great. And you are anticipating a future market. No? If you see the air today is extremely polluted because of various reasons. correct?
Yes,
And
sir.
based on that, there are a lot of disease which are coming up, which are things like, asthma, any other respiratory diseases, stuff like that. It is gaining more and more importance. So if you're addressing those markets, then I think there is a potential on this particular part.
All right, sir.
And I can think about some other interesting applications where, industrially you could use that in a much larger scale where they're willing to pay you a lot more.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Aditya?
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
Sure. Anybody else?
Guys, if you have any more questions.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah. Hi, Harshit.
Sir, I'm Harshit from Udaipur, Rajasthan. I'm
Okay.
basically second year student at
Yeah.
engineering college. So,
Okay.
we are working on a project in which we are making cutleries from floral waste.
Okay.
Basically, the marigold flower we are using
Right.
because it has the more binding property than any other flower.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have made our basic prototype of a cutlery.
Okay.
We are doing because in the process of making cutleries we are basically mainly using organic chemicals, so
Okay.
to make more biodegradable and eco-friendly product,
Okay.
but we are facing in making the coating of that product,
Okay.
because if we add the inorganic chemicals in coating the product, then it will be not that much biodegradable and eco-friendly.
Okay.
So, sir,
So,
I was basically asking the how we should proceed in this and what should we do research about coating and
okay.
and all.
So, what are the inorganic chemicals which they have addressed for coating this?
Sir, I have not done that much. बस अगर हम देखें बाकी सारे प्रोडक्ट्स के अंदर जो मार्केट के अंदर हैं तो
हाँ.
सर इनऑर्गेनिक सी केमिकल यूज करते हैं.
कौन से सॉरी कौन से
सर
केमिकल?
केमिकल सर मैंने देखे नहीं अभी तक कौन से
हाँ.
कोटिंग के यूज होते हैं बेसिकली.
हाँ. लेकिन बाकी सारे मार्केट वाले प्रोडक्ट क्या यूज करते हैं?
सर जो कोटिंग के लिए जो केमिकल्स होते हैं सर वो इनऑर्गेनिक ही होते हैं ना, मतलब
ऑर्गेनिक भी आ सकेंगे. और उसकी प्रॉपर्टीज का क्या चाहिए अपने को? वो पानी में गलने नहीं चाहिए, करेक्ट? डिसॉल्व नहीं होने चाहिए.
नहीं. आर प्रोडक्ट सर हमने ये टेस्ट कर रखा है, जो कोटिंग के बिना वाला प्रोडक्ट है वो भी काफी एफिशिएंट है, वो पानी में गल नहीं रहा है.
हाँ.
और जो हीट रेजिस्टिव अच्छा है, और टेस्ट के अंदर भी सर ऐसा कुछ दिक्कत नहीं है, जिसको खा रहे हैं जो भी उसके अंदर रख के टेस्ट के अंदर भी दिक्कत नहीं है. बेसिकली उसको एस्थेटिक बनाने के लिए हम लोग कोटिंग का
अच्छा,
यूज.
एस्थेटिक के लिए कोटिंग करना है. तो
हाँ.
सिलिका करोगे तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं आएगी, वो अच्छा बन जाएगा, रेजिस्टेंट वगैरह हो जाएगा, ट्रांसपेरेंट, और वो बायोडिग्रेडेबल नेचुरल प्रोडक्ट है. तो
सिलिका.
वो आप ट्राई कर सकते हो. या सम काइंड ऑफ रेजिन भी, अगर वो आप सोयाबीन से काफी रेजिन आते हैं, उनसे भी अगर आप करोगे तो कुछ लस्टर वगैरह, फाइन फिनिश वगैरह भी मिल सकती है.
ओके सर.
ओके. सम ऑयल्स वगैरह देखें तो वो बायोडिग्रेडेबल रहते हैं, उससे भी कुछ कर सकते हो आप.
ओके सर, थैंक यू सर.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Guys, if you have any more questions or if you want to just write down your questions also, you can do that as well in the chat box. Or you can write to me, I can forward it to Ravi later on. Okay, so I think Ravi don't have any more questions then now.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're through with your session then?
Okay. Thanks, Raj. Thank you, everybody, for
Yeah.
listening to me. And Raj, anybody has a question, they can ask you, then you can forward it to me. I'll be happy to answer them. So,
Definitely, definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ravi, for your time today. It was wonderful having you here and listening to you. I'm sure that this is going to be very helpful for them for their prototyping journey and also for the awards. Anything in particular that you would like to tell them about, like, what is it, the selection criteria it's going to be like? I've
So-
already forwarded it to them, but maybe from your end.
So my
So
end is
Vishwakarma.
that, all of you are very good